Welcome to the Swish List Podcast, where we talk all things basketball. Hosted by two brothers, Moses and Roman. Let's get into it. Welcome in, everybody. Swish List Podcast, Episode 9. I'm Moses. He's Roman. We've got a ton of stuff to talk about today. Super excited to have you here. We're going to talk about the NBA draft, how we feel about the top 3 picks. There have been some massive trades in the NBA. We have to talk about CP3 and Golden State. Word on the street is Portland and Dame are in a Mexican standoff. We're not sure who wants to shoot first, but at the end of the day, something's going to happen. One-on-one matchups, would you rather point guard edition? We've got plenty to talk about, all of that and more on this episode of Swish List Podcast. Let's start with the NBA draft. It was a big week this week. A lot of people are focusing on the top 3 picks. They're looking at the Twins. But one of the things that people are saying was that the draft was boring. People didn't want to watch it. It was difficult to follow. Why do you think people may feel that the draft has become boring?
I just feel like it's a bit repetitive at this point. I mean, it's just pick a few minutes of analysis onto the next guy. Pick a few minutes of analysis onto the next guy. You get your interview time, which I think is probably the most entertaining part, is you get to see these guys, their excitement on their face, their initial feeling on the team that they're going to, but there's just not as much feel to it. And I feel like something about these trades and stuff that goes on in the draft, I feel like I'm seeing less of it. I don't know if that's true or if it's just me, but I didn't see as much like this pick is going here, this team swapped picks with this team. So it's just, like I said, it's very repetitive. Draft pick, let's talk about this guy. Draft pick, let's talk about this guy.
This is probably one of the reasons that ESPN was pushing Wembanyama so much, why the NBA was pushing Wembanyama, because the hype really has died down. I think that one of the major reasons why is because there's never been more ways to get to the league than there is today. And it's hard for a lot of people to follow, right? It used to be you were watching college ball and you maybe had 1 or 2 European guys, but you knew kind of who was coming in. As we transition to the one and dones, you didn't know the players as much. Now you've got one and dones, you've got G League Ignite, you've got Overtimes League, you've got Europe, you've got all these leagues overseas. There's never been more ways to make it to the NBA, but people aren't watching the G League Ignite. So you didn't see Scoot Henderson play. There was a stat that came out about NBA's social media and who were the most watched players, 1 through 10. Victor Wembanyama was number 8. He didn't play a single minute in the NBA. This is how much hype they were trying to push this guy. And I think it's because they recognize kind of what's happening. Let's be honest here. I don't think he's on the level as a prospect as a LeBron James, and that's okay. I completely understand why they would push him, though, because you need people to watch. But we're not as connected with the players. I agree with you. Maybe you're not seeing the same picks getting traded same day, all that kind of stuff. It has kind of died down a little bit. It feels like you're more moving superstars or you're waiting till after the draft to make some changes. I don't think that this is going to change in the NBA. I think we're going to stay like this for quite some time. And you just have to accept the fact that you're not the NFL draft, and that's okay.
I feel like after those first 3 picks, the viewership probably dropped off like never before. I mean, the hype between Wembanyama, of course, he was going to go first, but then is Brandon Miller going to go to Charlotte, or is Scoot going to go after those 3? It was just kind of like people didn't really care after that.
I'm excited to see the Twins play. That's kind of a big thing for me, based on their journey. But speaking of those top 3 players, Roman, who do you think is going to have the best rookie season out of those 3?
I mean, you have to go Wemby at 1, obviously. He's a high-rated prospect for a reason. 8-foot reach, wonderful, versatile defender. He's probably going to have the best rookie season unless he gets hurt. And then for me, for 2, I'm going to go Brandon Miller here. I know you're big on Scoot, but I see this team keeping Dame and keeping those 2 as a duo in Portland. And so this first year, Scoot kind of takes a back seat role and gets mentored by Dame and doesn't have his exceptional rookie season, but learns a lot. And he's going to be on Charlotte, and Charlotte doesn't have a mentor like that. He's on a young team, and I think he's going to get a lot of playing time, and he's going to have the spotlight to share with LaMelo. So I see him having, in terms of numbers, a better rookie season than Scoot. So I'm going to go Brandon Miller at 2 and Scoot at 3.
I don't agree with you, and I'll give you some reasons why. I've got Wemby at 1. There's no way the NBA is not gonna let him win Rookie of the Year. He may not even have the best numbers, he's still gonna win it. The narrative's already set for that, in my opinion, and I also think he has the talent to back it up. It's not like he's not a talented player. So, I think it's gonna be well earned. I think he's gonna have it. I do believe that Scoot Henderson's there's gonna be more media coverage around Portland than there will be Charlotte. With Damian Lillard, if he stays, you're watching more Portland games than Charlotte games. Damian Lillard, if he goes, there's a narrative around what do the Portland Trailblazers look like without Damian Lillard. You're looking at Scoot Henderson. You're looking at maybe Anthony Simons. You want to see what that team's able to do. Charlotte, there really is no narrative. I mean, it's a new owner. You got LaMelo. He does have highlights every year. I just don't think you're going to see them on TV. And so it's really hard for guys to win that award that first year when you have no exposure to them. Like when I look at the year that Ben Simmons beat out Donovan Mitchell, who was on TV more? He was in Philly.
76ers. Yeah.
Exactly. So like I think that that's going to be play a major factor in how this thing goes down. I am big on Scoot Henderson. I think he's going to have an incredible rookie season. I think he's next in line for those athletic point guards, and I think he's going to be dominant. I think he's going to posterize somebody within the first month of the season. He's going to be big time. So for me, it's Wembanyama 1. No matter how well Scoot plays, he's not passing Wemby. Scoot at 2, Brandon Miller at 3. That's how it shakes down for me. Speaking of these rookies, the Spurs posted a very interesting video on their social media of Wembanyama getting his first shots up in the stadium. Did you see the video?
Yes, I did, and I was pretty quick to show up on just about every social media that I have.
Yeah. And one of the main reasons why is because he misses like every single shot. This is how you know that you've got haters for real. When the first video that gets posted about you, you miss a couple shots when you're just fooling around and people are already hating. Like, let's be honest. Spurs, you shouldn't have posted that video. Whoever's running your social media, read the room. Okay. You don't want to post that or just wait till he makes some shots and edit the clip. It's not even that hard to edit the clip.
That was my
I,
exact thoughts. It like, yes, if he didn't wanna shoot any more shots, let's just not post the clip or maybe just post the clip of him getting the alley-oop dunk, but to just post the unedited clip of him going 2 for 10 total and giving people the opportunity to make clickbait captions of Spurs made the wrong decisions and stuff like that. It's just that side of the NBA that people are looking for an opportunity to say anything.
Here's the deal, Wemby. Now that you're on this side, now that you're in the NBA, it's a whole lot of this. This is what the NBA fan base does. It doesn't seem like Wemby cares. Honestly, this is going to be a guy that's going to get a lot of hate this year. He's going to get a lot of hate. And it's not all going to be his fault. It's because a lot of people hyped him up. And he seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders. It's not going to get in the way. It's not going to bother him. But if you're the Spurs social media, not smart, not smart. Somebody should have a conversation and make sure you don't make a mistake like this again. Now, when I'm looking at not smart, I'm thinking about Brandon Miller actually and his comments. I don't know what this dude is on. He is like the Skip Bayless of draft picks. His takes are just crazy. He had 2 of them to back that now people are like, "Hey man, like are you okay? Are you all right?" The first one is when he says that Paul George is his GOAT. Look, man, Paul George is a great player. Podcast is it's good. But no, he's not even a top 25 player. He's not a top 30 player. Like, he's a great player. But to say Paul George is your GOAT, that's crazy. You can say he's your favorite player, but GOAT is crazy.
That's what I was gonna say. GOAT is that's a different conversation. You can have a favorite player, you can have a guy that's, inspired you the most, but we're
Yeah.
talking greatest of all time, and you're in the basketball world, man, like you're about to go to the NBA. This is gonna get heard, and that is absolutely wild to say. People get angry when people call Kobe their GOAT, and that's
Yeah.
people are like, "Did you say Kobe?" Like, Kobe's not the greatest of all time, like that type of thing, but Paul George is probably the wildest GOAT I've heard from an NBA prospect ever. That it's just outrageous.
It's the kind of comment you'd expect from a kid. So my question, Roman, to you is what's the crazier comment? That or when he said that the Charlotte Hornets are going to be in the NBA finals next year?
Probably that. I mean, I can understand confidence from a player, but I mean, we saw this from Jaylen Brown a few years ago when he decided to say that he was going to have what,
Oh my
5 rings by year 7.
oh my
You
gosh.
can understand a confident player, but you've gotta be a bit realistic. This is the NBA, the highest level of basketball in the world, and you weren't even the number 1 pick, man. So you got a long way to go, especially with the franchise that you're at. I bet all my money that that team is nowhere past the 2nd round next year. So that comment, I can kind of understand the GOAT comment, like maybe he doesn't understand the GOAT conversation, but him saying that that team is gonna be in the finals in possibly 2 years, that just makes 0 sense. You gotta be realistic.
You're not LeBron James, my friend. I don't think this take was a good one. So Brandon Miller, hopefully he can find an NBA veteran or somebody or a coach can just sit him down and stay away from these Skip Bayless level hot takes. Let's talk about some news around the league, maybe outside of the draft. We actually had a pretty big week when it comes to blockbuster trades. A lot of them involved the Wizards. The first was a massive trade that sent Chris Paul to the Golden State Warriors in exchange for Jordan Poole. What are your thoughts on the trade? Does it make sense?
I don't like it. I mean, I think everybody's first initial reaction was Chris Paul to the Warriors. Like these are 2 point guards. I know Steph Curry's not a traditional point guard, but these are 2 point guards. And then the fact that they just tossed Jordan Poole like that after saying that they were going to keep him for multiple years. I don't like Chris Paul on the Warriors. I mean, I know he's a great facilitator, but the way they play, especially if Draymond is still there, Chris Paul on that team does not fit right at all.
Yeah, this trade tells me more about how the Warriors felt about Jordan Poole than how they feel about Chris Paul. They were so tired of Jordan Poole that they were willing to take on Chris Paul's bad contract. Now, there's a couple of things to keep in mind for people if you don't know how NBA trades work, this might be helpful. So in the NBA, you can't just trade anybody for anybody. The salaries have to match up, but the salaries only have to match up for the following season. So Chris Paul has 1 year left on his deal. Jordan Poole has a multi-year contract, which means that this allows Golden State to clean up their books. They've now reduced the amount of time they have to have a massive contract on the books to just this season. And I'm pretty sure they were ready for Jordan Poole to be out the door. Because when you think about the punch, the Draymond Green punch, what was interesting was that the Warriors weren't talking about how upset they were with Draymond Green or about the punch. They didn't agree with it, but they wanted to know who leaked the video. That's what their questions were, is we're investigating who leaked the video. So Jordan Poole had to have been doing something that was pissing people off. So I think this says more about how done with Jordan Poole they were. Now, when I'm looking at the Warriors today, I've got a lot of questions for Dunleavy, the new GM. This one doesn't make any sense to me, man. This is a weird one for sure. Obviously, you're going to bring Chris Paul off the bench, but like, what are we doing here? If it's me, I'm expecting a buyout. I don't think Chris Paul is playing in a Golden State uniform. That's my personal opinion. I don't see it working. I don't see the fit. I don't understand it. Now, the next big trade was another one involving the Washington Wizards. It sent Kristaps Porzingis to the Boston Celtics, Marcus Smart to the Grizzlies, Tyus Jones and a few others to the Wizards. Roman, how do you feel about this trade?
It's a weird one. It's really weird. I think the Celtics get a lot out of it. To get Porzingis, I think people kind of forget that Porzingis is really good because he ended up on the Wizards, and Wizards are not good for TV or anything like that. But this is a guy who's going to put up 20 and probably give you double-digit rebounds as well. Porzingis doesn't have to be a primary defender for the big man position because they still have Robert Williams there, who is one of the best interior defenders in the NBA in terms of being a big man. So I like it for them. They get a lot of scoring from a big man. I don't know what's going to happen with Jaylen Brown, but I'm liking Jason Tatum and Kristaps Porzingis as a duo right here in Boston. But for the Grizzlies, I think Jones was a lot for them. I think he did a lot for that team, especially when Ja would go out. And the fact that he's going to go out, I thought that he was going to be a major factor in the Grizzlies still being a good team. I think they lose a lot of offense by losing him, but who knows? Marcus Smart shot really well in the playoffs, but that team is really good defensively. Marcus Smart, Jared Jackson Jr., Steven Adams, they've got some guys that are known as good defenders.
This brings me back to the conversation we had about the Milwaukee Bucks. And I don't know if you saw, but Chris Middleton opted out of his contract. Anyways, back to the trade. This is what happens when these really good teams with finals experience or championship expectations lose. Somebody's getting moved. When they didn't fire the coach, that meant one of the players was going to be gone. And if they want to stand by Jaylen Brown, you're going to disrupt the core. You got to ship off Marcus Smart. I don't think it's a terrible move. The guy running their front office was the one who coached him when he first came into the league, so they know him very well. Sending him to Memphis, Memphis gets a veteran that may be able to mentor John Morant. Porzingis playing in Boston. The bigs were not good against Miami. I still think you need to figure out a way to move on from Al Horford, but this makes you a much better threat from the 3-point line compared to the last few seasons. And I think you can find serviceable guards. You're happy with Derek White. I think you're happy with Malcolm Brogdon, even though they were trying to facilitate a move with him as well. Like they can make the guards work, but in today's NBA, if you're going to run into the Denver Nuggets at the end, if you're going to run into the 76ers, who I know they beat, you want to make sure you've got somebody more serviceable as a big. So I do like it for them. And for the Wizards, Tyus Jones, I'm stoked for him, man, because he's on a team that has a ton of opportunity and he's going to get a lot of playing time. So I'm stoked for him to be able to continue to showcase his talent because he was never going to get any more minutes playing for the Memphis Grizzlies with John Morant there. Last up, when we're talking NBA trades, I don't want to get into the Dame stuff until it actually happens. That's that Mexican standoff where neither party wants to be the bad guy and say, I want to be traded or we're going to start the trade process. And so now we're just in limbo. This situation's a lot weirder. It's the 76ers with Tobias Harris. Now, they asked for everything in the kitchen sink from the Cleveland Cavaliers. They wanted Mobley. They wanted all these guys picks. Do the 76ers know who Tobias Harris is?
They don't. Great player, but
100%.
the value that they're putting on this guy is unbelievable. I mean, they gave him a great contract when they needed to, but I mean, this is the guy who's going to give you probably maybe 20 a game, but he has his games where he goes for 12 points too, and everybody knows this. This is why he's not regarded as one of those best scorers in the NBA because he has his moments where he goes back to being one of those role players. And I don't know why the 76ers think they can get a possible defensive player of the year, draft picks, and another player for this guy. He hasn't won
Yeah.
anything. It's not like he's a major winner, a veteran to a lot of franchises. I don't know where they see this major value in him.
It's almost like his agent said, look at what the trade market is. And they were like, see, we checked. We asked for everything and they didn't offer it. No, Tobias Harris he's a fantastic third option, but he's not a second option. And he certainly isn't a number one guy. And that's okay. He's probably one of the best third options in the league, but that doesn't mean that you're worth multiple picks and players. So, and I like Tobias Harris. I think he's a great player, but Daryl Morey, Daryl Morey, you need to stay off that Philly pack tonight. Okay. Stay off that Philly pack tonight because it's getting to you, man. It's getting to you. That's wild. That is wild. So that's what we've got for NBA news. There's a conversation I think that needs to be had about two European players and where they stand today. So, Roman, what I want to ask you is who's actually had the better career, Giannis or Jokic? Two guys that were very much so slept on when they came into the league, had an incredible rise with the same franchise, have won a championship. Who's had the better career?
Oh, it's kind of a no-brainer for me. I'm gonna go Giannis. I think it's pretty close in terms of winning and stuff like that, but Giannis is a better defender. We know this for sure. He's a major impact player on the offensive end, but this guy has Defensive Player of the Year awards, and he doesn't have them for no reason. For that 2019 and 2020 season, he was dominating on both ends of the court, and I know Jokic really dominates on one end of the court. Like, we've never seen a big man do this before,
Hmm.
but the fact that they both have one championship, one Finals MVP, I have to take the Defensive Player of the Year awards as my outweigh here. I just think Giannis has done more in his career at this point.
Giannis certainly has been a more marketable player. I mean, when he got drafted in Milwaukee, he wasn't even what they were perceived to be their best pick. It was Jabari Parker, who they were hoping to be the best player. He was kind of a surprise for them. And you've got Jokic, who got drafted during a Taco Bell commercial. So here's one of the biggest pushbacks on Giannis. It's when he won. When Giannis won, it was post-pandemic years where the stadiums didn't even have they weren't even full of fans, right? Like, you couldn't even have people close to the players. And when the lights have been brightest on Giannis, he actually has not delivered. He's also a liability on the offensive end down the stretch. You really can't count on him for a get a bucket moment in a half court set compared to a guy like Jokic. Sure, they're both two-time MVPs, but there are deficiencies in Giannis's game that are they're very obvious. So I can see where an argument would be made to take Jokic, but I don't think I'm taking Jokic. Giannis, his journey, his story, what he means to the league, he's more of a face of the league than Jokic has been. I think that matters a little bit as well. It's hard when you're looking at accolades because they're so close. You pointed out Defensive Player of the Year. And it might be our Nigerian bias on the podcast, but I gotta go with Giannis myself.
It's tough.
It is tough.
I mean,
It is
Jokic's
tough.
dominance
Like, I don't
this
it's
year in the playoffs, that recency bias, because the
yeah.
way he dominated this entire playoff run is I feel like Giannis's playoff run in 2021 was not the same as what we're seeing from Jokic. This is unbelievable, but
He did have
I
that
think that
50-point game in the finals. That was
he
the fif
did,
the 50 piece, and then the 50 nuggets at Chick-fil-A, that was big time.
and basically the game-winning
That was
dunk
big time. Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, and his you remember the block he had where he blocks
on the
the
alley-oop.
alley-oop, where he defends and then turns around and blocks the out I mean, he had some incredible plays on that run. Jokic, it is tough because he's more of a boring player. Speaking of boring players, there is a guy that I think is falling on people's all-time lists. There's a guy who I think unfairly is being forgotten when we're talking about top 5 players, top 10 players. His name's Tim Duncan. Roman, Tim Duncan was one Ray Allen three-pointer away from being 6-0 in the finals. 6-0 in the finals. That's the big one, right? That's Jordan. That's Jordan.
Gonna say there's only one other player that I know that has that.
There's only one other player. With that being the case, why is Tim Duncan getting disrespected this much in 2023?
You said it at the beginning. He's boring. He's Mr. Fundamental. He's not entertaining basketball, especially I think with my generation and kids a little bit younger than me. If you want to know about basketball, you'll go back and you watch a few games, you watch some highlight tapes of a player. Nobody's going to watch a Tim Duncan highlight tape unless you're trying to like model your game after his. But these kids who are trying to be like a Michael Jordan, like a Kobe Bryant, you're not going to go back and watch Tim Duncan. He's a great player, but he doesn't make for as entertaining basketball for a casual fan. It completely ruins his career. Like people are going to be taking players like Dirk over Tim Duncan because of the way it looks in certain highlights. Tim is just he's good at basketball, but he's not good for highlight culture in basketball.
Tim Duncan's game was not built for TikTok. And I agree with you. I think that's somewhat problematic. There's so many guys historically that can stay relevant because of their highlights. Even, and unfortunately, Tim Duncan does not have that same level of cachet on the highlight side, and it's cost him when we're talking about all-time players. I think it's disrespectful to him. It's crazy to me that the people that claim they know basketball can put Tim Duncan so low on the totem pole. Did y'all forget about Tim Duncan? We didn't. And this is just reiterating that point if you forgot about it. Not only is he a guy that's one Ray Allen three away from being 6-0, he's the only player in NBA history to win a championship in 3 separate decades. Okay? Absolutely incredible. Nobody else has been able to do that. That's a stat that's literally never mentioned, and it's arguably one of the greatest in history. Crazy to me. Absolutely wild.
All right, I want to get straight into the would you rather. I'm excited for this one. I think this one's gonna be tough for you. So, would you rather Jamal Murray edition? Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Jamal Murray or Darius Garland?
Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray. Darius Garland folded in the playoffs this year. He's still young, so there's time for him to develop. He's a great player, but it's Jamal Murray for sure. Shows up when it matters most.
Okay, well, we got Jamal Murray, Drew Holiday.
Today,
Today. We'll go to today. Yeah.
Jamal Murray. Something about Drew Holiday on offense is really frustrating. I don't know what it is. He misses such easy shots. I got to go Jamal Murray here. I know it's a lot of recency bias, but if we're talking today, that's the pick.
We got Jamal Murray, De'Aaron Fox.
It's De'Aaron Fox. You're talking about a great point guard versus a number one guy. De'Aaron Fox literally put the Sacramento Kings on his back and brought them to relevance. You have to respect that. You have to respect that. It's for sure De'Aaron Fox for me. His game's great. I think he's going to be able to go to another level or at least take the Kings to another level. De'Aaron Fox for me for sure.
Jamal Murray, Trae Young.
Jamal Murray. I'm out on Trae Young, man. I'm out. Good players on bad teams. Trae Young, I think, is one of the most overrated players in the league. The fact that the Hawks are already on the fence about whether or not Trae Young is their guy moving forward is all the more reason for me to pick Jamal Murray here. Jamal Murray.
Jamal Murray, Tyrese Halliburton.
Jamal Murray. Tyrese Halliburton's a fun player, a great story. How many times have you heard about the Indiana Pacers? We probably have to come back a year or two from now to have a Tyrese Halliburton conversation. It's too early for that one. Right now, it's Jamal Murray.
I like this one. I really like this one. Jamal Murray or Jalen Brunson.
Oh, man. Mm. Jalen Brunson almost like that's tough. That's actually tough.
It's not a one-on-one here. This is who do you want in your system here?
Who do I want in my system? It's Jamal
Yeah.
Murray. Yeah. I'm taking Jamal Murray. That's so tough. I don't feel good about the pick, but I think I'm taking Jamal. It's no disrespect to Jalen Brunson because he elevated his game with the Knicks. Gosh.
I like that one a lot. That's a tough one.
Who are you taking on that one?
I was just as much on the fence as you were,
It's
but I mean,
so hard.
Jamal Murray's a winner at this point, so I think it makes sense to go Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray, Shea.
I'm gonna go Shea here. At that position, he's a better talent. His mid-range to inside game is better than Jamal Murray. He's more of a set shooter where Jamal has more of a jump shot from three. He does play a little bit slower at the position. He has a different pace, but Shea's the better talent. He's the better player. I'm taking Shea.
Last one, Jamal Murray, Kyrie Irving.
Okay, so Kyrie's the better player, but if I'm running a franchise, I'm taking Jamal Murray. If I take Jamal Murray, I know what I'm going to get every night. I know how hard he's going to play, and I know he's going to be committed to the franchise. If I take Kyrie Irving, I might get him for 6 months. I might get him for 6 days. I might get him for 6 weeks. You just don't know. You just don't know what Kyrie's going to walk into the building every day. It makes it really difficult. He is the better player. He is the better talent. He's great. But if I'm running a team and I'm looking at my future from today, Jamal Murray's the pick.
I like that you said that because I think it was Tim Hardaway Jr. that was asked about how Kyrie is, and he's like, he's great as a teammate. Like he's great, and I'm sure that most of the time with teammates, it's great in the locker room. But Kyrie is bad for front offices. He's bad for a coaching staff a lot of the time. So I think
Yeah.
things could go great with the players, but if your front office and your coaching staff is not on the same page as the players, it can go just as bad as if the players were not on the same page. So I like your pick, even though we all obviously know that Kyrie is the better player. All right, Moses, another week of one-on-one matchups. Are you ready?
Been ready.
All right. First matchup, we got DeAndre Ayton versus Miles Turner.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Two guys that don't want to play. DeAndre Ayton. I don't think he's a great fit in Phoenix right now, but I do think he's the better big man. I don't love that his game is below the rim as much as it is. I'd love to see him dunk the basketball a little bit more, but great touch, 18 and 10, 22 and 10 type player. I'm taking Ayton.
Next matchup, we got Kevin Love versus Chris Bosh.
Oh my gosh.
And
Oh
this
my
is
gosh.
prime. You
This
know,
is
I'm thinking
prime. So that's
Timberwolves, Kevin
Raptors.
Love
It's
versus
T-Wolves,
Raptors,
Kev.
Chris Bosh. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, you know I gotta go with the Timberwolves. Give me Kevin Love, man. He was dropping 40 and 20. I'm taking K-Love for sure.
I like it. I like it. This one's probably going to get people the most. We got Kareem versus Wilt.
Wilt's one of the strongest players to ever play. Kareem. We gotta understand college basketball changed the game because he was too dominant. It's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He's got the most unstoppable shot ever in the skyhook and one-on-one. You tell me how you're gonna stop him. You can't. It's Kareem for me.
Next one, we got Karl Malone and Kevin Garnett.
I will never take Karl Malone on this podcast ever. Ever. KG is the better player, but it wouldn't even matter if he wasn't. I would still take him. I'm never picking Karl Malone. It's Kevin Garnett.
Okay, I can understand that.
I will
For
say
reasons
this.
that we don't need to talk about why.
I will say this. It feels like Kevin Garnett wants to be known as a Celtic and wants people to forget he ever played for the Timberwolves. Like, he's Celtics legend Kevin Garnett, but he won his MVP with the Timberwolves, man. I loved those black jerseys with the Timberwolves logo. Those were sweet, man. Give me Timberwolves KG.
All right, our final matchup, we got DeMarcus Cousins versus Blake Griffin.
Yeah, that's Boogie for sure. It's barbecue chicken alert too. I don't think that Blake Griffin's a great one-on-one player. Like, he's extremely athletic, but I don't think his game is great one-on-one. Boogie, for a couple years, there wasn't a big in the game that could stop him. You go look up his numbers when he played for the Kings. He was going crazy. It's not like the Kings won a lot of games, but we're talking one-on-one. It's Boogie Cousins. And the fact that that video still circulates about him versus Brittany Griner is wild.
The
It's
Brittany
okay,
Griner talk should have never happened.
it's okay, little man.
It's okay, little
What?
man. Okay, little man. So interesting, but there I'm probably going to go with the same pick. The only place that I'm probably going to disagree with you is Kareem and Wilt. I mean, Kareem is obviously the better player. Wow. These stories that I hear about Wilt and his strength and his dominance in a one-on-one, I'm going to take Wilt against Kareem.
Wow, that is wild. That is
No, it's
wild.
not though.
That
It's
is
not, because
wild,
Kareem is
bro.
obviously the better player in terms of 5-on-5 basketball. But if I'm going one-on-one, I'm taking Wilt.
They just used to dunk on each other left and right. Like, it was crazy.
It'd be a good matchup. It'd be a
It'd be
good
a lot of
matchup.
dunks. It'd be pretty good, but Kareem's gonna win, so
Uh-huh.
you're wrong. I don't know why you just insist on being wrong. I try to help you. I
Just
try.
insist on the
You
man
don't
that can bench
listen.
500 pounds.
I don't know. Did we see it? Or is that the same record like his 100-point game that no one saw either? How is there not one person that walks out and says, "I was there"?
Because they're probably all dead, Moses.
Oh my gosh. Like, why did we
But
not
yeah, it is
interview
kind
a
of crazy.
teammate? Like, why didn't we
The
interview a
stories of
teammate?
that, there
They're
should not be any
suspect.
controversy around that. But
They're
you know,
very
you hear the
suspect.
stories of people going, if we didn't know who scored, we just gave the point to Wilt. This is a young NBA, so I don't know
Oh,
if we should really be surprised.
this was a fun episode, man. Anybody that's listening right now, Roman and I, we just got back today from our family reunion. We just spent a few days up in the mountains, got to hang out, spent some time in the cabin, hit the campsite, eating a lot of grub, talking, playing some games, a lot of fun. Great reset for us. It's kind of an annual thing that we do every single year. If you have a vacation that you take every year, or you've got a tradition that you do in the summer, we want to know what it is. Let us know. Send us a DM at SwishListPod or on all your favorite platforms. We want to know, what do you do in the summertime? Do you have a special place that you go with the family? Is there a family reunion? Is there a game you like to play? What do you do? With that being said, that's it for episode 9. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day today. We appreciate you so much. If you haven't already, please go like, follow, share, comment, subscribe. We're on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. Of course, if you're listening to this in podcast form, we're on Spotify and Apple Music. Please share this episode with your best friend, somebody that needs to learn a little bit more about the game, and we will catch you next week. Roman, anything you want to say to the listeners out there?
Thanks for listening. We love the support. And if you're not subscribed, if you're not following, it's getting ridiculous. It's getting ridiculous. But no, it's been a great week. I'm excited about more NBA trades, more NBA news coming out. This next season is going to be really exciting with these 3 rookies that are really been hyped up. So the basketball world is really looking up right now.
It's going to be a whole lot of rumors. Free agency is coming up as well. We're going to have a lot of fun stuff to talk about moving forward. So stay tuned for episode 10 next week. Thank you so much for being with us. That's it for Swishlist Podcast. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Swishlist Podcast. Catch us on social, and we'll see you next week.